All right, folks, we got my man, my boy, Jovan Buha of the Athletic, Lakers insider. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, bro. Good to see you.
Of course, same as always, man. So we're going to get right into factor feelings. Factor feelings, there's a trade out there that will make the Lakers championship contenders.
I'll say feelings. I think it's probably two trades, and even then, I look at them as a back end contender, like a dark horse, a puncher's chance. I don't see any move that gets them on the same tier as a Boston, OKC, Cleveland. Could they be in that next tier of New York, Milwaukee, Dallas, then healthy Dallas, Denver? Maybe. I think there are moves that could get them in that conversation, but that first tier, I don't see anything that gets them there.
Yeah, it's interesting, man, because you recently wrote a piece about the Lakers, perhaps needing to pick a direction, right? Either make a move or don't close up shop. And I think the direction is probably going to be made for them by the trade deadline in terms of nothing really happening. But there does seem to be just this annual ritual with the Lakers of like, the team isn't good enough. What are we going to do to make it better? And it feels like LeBron isn't really willing to exercise any real power or leverage in the situation anyway. He signed a new deal with the team last summer, used one of his leverage chips to get his own damn son on the team. And I'm sorry, like, it doesn't seem like he cares all that. But like, LeBron wants to win, but it feels like he doesn't feel like leveraging, every single bit of influence that he has into making sure this is the best team possible. Is that an incorrect read on my part?
I would say that that's pretty accurate. And I think he did just apply some pressure with the ESPN report that came out about AD and LeBron wanting the Lakers to invest further in this group and feeling like they're one or two pieces away, depending on who those pieces are. So I think to your point, like we kind of have seen this every trade cycle. There's always the report that comes out a couple weeks to a month before the trade deadline that LeBron and AD want a better roster. They want the team to use their picks. At the same time, I would say the one thing here is I do think there's a narrative that LeBron is always calling the shots and like that the Lakers kowtow and do whatever he wants. And I would just point to, he wanted Kyrie. They didn't go get him. In previous seasons, he's wanted Zach LaVine or DeJounte Murray. Like he's wanted, there was like a little bit of a gap there after the Russ trade and they make the conference finals. But basically since then, he has wanted other third ball handling, quote unquote, stars, that type of player archetype. And the Lakers have not done it. And they have not traded some of their younger assets. They've not traded some of their picks. So sure, do they do maybe on the back end of the roster, they sign a clutch guy, they draft Bronny, they sign him to a contract. Yes, but in the grand scheme of like actually going for it and competing and making win now moves for LeBron, it's been years since they've really done a trade to appease LeBron or AD. So that's like the one narrative I see out there that I feel like I continue to kind of hammer, that they don't do what LeBron wants, because if they did what LeBron wanted, this roster would look a lot different and they would have that third all-star caliber guy who I think you could argue, I mean, if you look at the way Austin Reeves has been playing the past month, he's averaging 20 and 8, like on good shooting. Like
you would argue he's an all-star?
He's not an all-star. He's not an all-star, but like for a third option,
yeah.
How many third options out there are averaging 20 points and 8 assists on good shooting? Like there aren't many. So I think Austin's been really solid in that third role, but to your point, like LeBron could apply more pressure. I think he's satisfied in LA and being a Laker, living in Los Angeles, having his son on the team. So I don't think he's moving quite the way he did earlier in his Lakers tenure, in previous tenures in Cleveland and Miami.
Yeah. Oh my
but
God,
he still
the
wants
Cleveland
to win.
tenure, Lord have mercy. He had their foot on
he
their
wants
necks.
them to trade. Like he always wants them to trade the picks. LeBron, it's like the Jordan meme. Like F them kids, F them picks.
Yeah.
That's how LeBron operates.
So I mentioned your piece, Yovi, and I want to bring up what you said in here, because I kind of laughed when I when I read this, because I thought about it in context to the contenders that we mentioned before, right? And you said they have 3 notable needs that they need to address to become a contender: better two-way wings, especially defensively, a better backup center, who is capable of protecting the rim, and another ball handler and playmaker to augment what James and Austin Reeves are doing when they're off the floor. That's a lot.
I just described like half a playoff rotation. Yeah.
Like, bro, these are not, I forgot who I was talking to.
That's what I said. It's got to be a couple moves at least.
They asked me after the Finney Smith move, like, does this move the dollars? Like, did this seem like a team that was a Dorian Finney-Smith away from competing for championships? In today's NBA, one, I think if LeBron were not 40 years old and he were playing like, say, a top 3 MVP candidate, playing as well as Jokic and Shea are right now, which is what he was for 10 years of his career, there'd be a lot of less weaknesses to mask, right? Like, it would be much simpler to construct this roster. But the fact of the matter is, if LeBron is still your best player, you just need a lot more depth than what they have now, because he just cannot shoulder all of the burdens. In Miami, this freaking guy could protect the paint. He could guard your best perimeter player, whether it be D Wade or Paul George. D Rose or Paul George. D Rose won the MVP. LeBron was smashing this guy in crunch time on an island by himself.
Yeah.
Then protecting the paint, blocking guys, centers, guarding centers when he needed to, right? And of course, he was the primary ball handler. And of course, he was the primary playmaker. Like, this guy was wearing 5 different hats at an insanely high level in the prime of his career. He just can't do that anymore. And I don't know how the Lakers pull the trigger at one trade deadline to, create a team that can mask all of their deficiencies right now.
Yeah, it to me kind of feels like that there's been this like standoff that's been brewing between the two sides of the stars. To your point, AD signs his extension. LeBron continues to re-sign and invest in the Lakers, LA, and just like is comfortable living here. And then the Lakers, they continue to kick the can down the road and re-sign these guys and kind of say, well, we're going to have picks we're going to have 3 picks this summer. Then they don't use the 3 picks. We're going to have more assets and could do more at the trade deadline. And the Dorian Finney-Smith trade was nice. And it was only 3 second-round picks. They kept their 2 picks. I think like he's second on the team in plus minus since he's been a Laker. I think he has made an impact. But to your point, like that wasn't like the one move that was going to solve everything. That they still have multiple needs. So it does feel like that was the point of the column that I wrote of, I think there's 3 directions that they could go down. One of them, in my opinion, is clearly the wrong direction. That's also, talking to people around the league, the direction they're most likely to go down, which to me, it's either you go all in, you go out swinging, you do the Phoenix route, basically, of we're trading all the picks and whatever is the best combination of players we could get back, the best roster we can build with our 2 first-round picks, multiple pick swaps, and 2 second-round picks. Let's build that roster. Go all in, last 18 months of LeBron and AD. Path 2 is either stand pat and do nothing and just ride out this group, or do like another half measure, trade your 2 seconds, go get like a Jonas Valanciunas or just kind of some non-needle moving rotation guy that like in theory makes you better, but it's not really moving the needle that much. Or path 3 is you trade LeBron and AD, you have a complete teardown and you get as many assets and young guys as possible. Now, I don't see path 3 happening. LeBron and AD again are happy in LA. LeBron has a no trade clause, so that's a big factor here. And the Lakers, that's not how they operate. They like being relevant, putting butts in seats, and at least being in the conversation. So path 3 is the least likely. I just don't really see that happening. But between path 1 and 2, again, I think it comes down to like, what was the point of re-signing LeBron and AD if you were never going to make the upgrade trade? Because now they sat out 2023 offseason, 2024 season, and 2024 offseason. They sat out 3 trade cycles. And it's like, clearly this roster has not been good enough to really contend. And it almost feels like they've just been re-signing those guys to stay relevant. And if that's the plan, then just come out and say that. But they've kind of had this like smokescreen of we're trying to compete, we're trying to contend, we have all these assets, we're trying to prioritize the present and the future. And they're kind of just in this no man's land of not good enough to contend, but also they don't have like all these picks and assets for like the future. So it's like, you got to pick a route and go down and you know, commit to it. So I think if they do something that's kind of like a half measure, that seems to be the most likely thing. But that, in my opinion, would be a mistake because they'll probably be a first round exit. And then this offseason, they're going to do the whole song and dance with LeBron of, does he want to stay? Does he want to go? Do they trade him? Like, so to me, I think it's really more, do you go all in or do you just trade these guys? And, but I don't think they view it that way.
So here's where I'm gonna zag with you and give the listeners of In My Feelings some real talk, right? If I was Jeannie Buss and me and my 7 siblings, our only source of income are the Los Angeles Lakers. We're not like, you know, Steve Ballmer, who's just independently ridiculously rich, or pretty much most of these other owners. Their income, which they split as a family, literally only comes from the Lakers. I'm not going to do this all-in situation. What I'm going to do is keep my team relevant enough, star-driven enough that we keep this thing packed, keep tickets reasonably high, sell as much concessions as possible, not bottom out. And then when we eventually go after the next great Lakers star, Luka Doncic or Devin Booker or whoever the hell it is, whoever we end up doing who's on the younger side of this thing, we're going to have some more bullets left in the chamber to shoot. But I'm not doing a complete teardown. No, because literally every single penny goes in, any penny going out is one that doesn't stay into the pocketbooks of me and my siblings. And so that's what I got to do. And for better and for worse, man, like I think the Lakers provide so much entertainment because they are run as a mom and pop outfit. But like, if I'm a Laker fan and I watch the wild shit Steve Ballmer was willing to do for that team, you know, over the years in terms of financially, and see the Lakers just do how they do things and just never be willing to take like crazy risks, I'd be annoyed by it. But I understand it though.
I hear you. And I agree from their perspective. I just think they've kind of botched the messaging to the fan base. And to your point, you know, I live stream after every game. I do like 30 minutes to an hour of Q&A with the fan base, and the fan base is fed up with this. And they want the Lakers to pick a direction as well as like, stop, you know, pretending that you guys are going for it when you haven't made moves. And like, yeah. I've made this point recently that I almost feel like the 2023 Western Conference Finals run was like the worst thing to happen to them because it gave them cover that this group. So like last year was all about, you know, Vando's out. And then Gabe Vincent gets injured early on. It's like, well, we're not fully healthy. We didn't get to evaluate the group. Oh, wait, it was Darvin Ham's fault. Let's bring in a new coach. And now it's kind of like, well, you've had a lot of the same issues and you just have too many one-way guys. And like outside of looking at a potential playoff rotation, right? So LeBron and AD, of course, Austin, Dorian Finney-Smith. Those are 4 guys I'm confident could be in a playoff rotation and be productive. Outside of that, like Gabe Vincent has not been the same since leaving Miami. Rui has disappeared in a couple playoff series. Max Christie is unproven and like I think is played well, but we have yet to really see him in that role.
I still believe in Max Christie. I'm not gonna lie, my belief had waned early on in the season. I'm like, damn, all this Max Christie belief. What was that about? But he's shown some signs.
No, he's been good. He's unproven. That's the only thing. We have not seen him in a start. Like right now, he's their starting shooting guard. We have not seen that at the playoff level. So you just look at it and you get to like. And Vando, you know, for Vando, like as good as he is defensively, he's coming off playing 29 games in the past 2 seasons. He's also, you know, an offensive liability, a guy you have to account for with your spacing and how you use him. So it's like you quickly get to a pretty rough part of the roster where it's like Jackson Hayes, Cam Reddish, Christian Wood. Like you don't want to be relying on those guys in the playoffs. So that's where I point to the needs that they have, it being pretty signiant.
Bro, Jackson Hayes went out and it was like tough. That's crazy. That's insane.
But because the drop off from AD to Jackson Hayes is like already you see how steep it is on a nightly basis. And then Jackson Hayes goes out and they're playing 2-way guys as their backup centers. So it's like, it's tough. But I do think like there is a world. So the two guys that they've been linked
What
to
type of
for,
I want to know what type of
let's get into
moves that could turn this into something that you think is on the level of the New York Knicks. I can hear I'm in Brooklyn right now. I can hear my Knicks fans saying, "You must be crazy
they're gonna
if
come
you
for
think
me.
y'all could be
They're
as
gonna
good
come
as the
for me."
Knicks."
So the main thing I come back to is like even going back to that 2023 run, like, and I'm gonna contradict myself a little bit here, but like it wasn't some crazy group that was around LeBron and AD. Like that group was Austin, D'Lo, Rui, Vando, Dennis Schroeder. They didn't even really have a backup five during that run. They played a lot of small ball with Rui or Vando at center, and that it was just like competent role players around LeBron and AD, those two guys playing at a certain level. I would say, of course, they were better back then. So that's the one, it's a major factor. But I would also argue like Austin's better than he was in 2023. You could make a case like DFS fits a winning style better than a Rui or Vando. But I think for them, it's just like they want better role players around them. And with LeBron and AD as a duo, like I still would put them as a top 2 or 3 duo in the league. I think they're both still top 50. I think AD's firmly in the top 10. And then I think LeBron, depending on the night, could be a little bit lower, but like he's still on average, I would say top 20 at worst, if not in the top 15 conversation. So you have that duo. The reason why people who are around the team are so high on them still is because you walk into certain playoff series and like Memphis, for example, right? Memphis could be a 2 or 3 seed depending on how the rest of the season goes.
They
walks into that series and they believe they have the 2 best players in that series. They believe LeBron and AD are better than Ja. And they have a history of they beat them in 2023 and they fared pretty well against them in the regular season the past couple of years. So on paper, I think 2-7 LA Memphis. You walk in and most people are going to say Memphis wins in like 5 or 6. LA walks in and they're like, we're taking this in 5 and 6. We have the 2 best players in this series. AD beats Triple J every time they play each other. Like he's mincemeat against him. We have the antidote for Ja in like Max Christie defends him well, and they've just defended him well in general. So they walk into that series confident. But in terms of potential moves, this is not going to, it's not going to be the sexiest names, but a big one that has been attached to them for a few months now has been Walker Kessler. And I think that one comes down to the price of Utah has wanted 2 firsts. Lakers don't want to give up 2 firsts.
Hell out of here.
But if you could do, I think I'd be willing at this point. This is more of an all-in move, but to give up Dalton Connect and almost treat him as you're including a first and then a first-round pick to Utah and Connect and a first for Kessler. Now you could start Kessler and go back to like that 2020 model, or you bring him off the bench. But they have been playing some more 2 big lineups that they're trying to do a little bit more of that. Then a second move for me would be depending on the health of these 2 guys. Both guys are health risks. Either going out and getting Bruce Brown or Lonzo Ball. And you would probably have to trade Rui.
Lonzo Ball?
A minimum contract and then a couple seconds. And so you still have a first. You're not gutting all your assets. But I think those 2 guys, or either combination of Kessler and Brown or Lonzo Ball, would fit really well because they need that third ball handler behind LeBron and Austin. Both of those guys are good defenders, good multi-positional defenders. And Rui, I think, is a little bit more expendable now that you have DFS and a healthy Vando back. So I don't think you quite need him as much. So to me, that rounds into like, let's just say AD, LeBron, DFS, Bruce Brown, and Austin. And then your bench is Max Christie, Vando, Walker Kessler. And then that 9th spot's a little shaky, but you potentially create a roster spot depending on the trade, and you could go sign someone or something. But I think that gets you to a better top 8, and then you just got to stay healthy and kind of figure out the lineups. Now, again, I'm not saying that's on OKC or Boston or Cleveland level. If anything, it might even be at like the back end of that second tier. But I think that the Lakers are confident that like with one more run with this group, they can get to at least the conference finals, depending on the side of the bracket they're on. And at least you're in the conversation in terms of competing. But Again, I mean, as I said at the beginning, it's to me, it's more of a feelings thing than a facts thing. I don't really see him.
It's not what has been put on the court. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I look, Alonzo Ball is one of my favorite players in the league. Like with his injury track record, I just think that would be a tough way to sink some assets, man. Like I love Lonzo. I think him and LeBron are just made to play with each other, but the injury history is concerning. I got one more question, man, because man, I have a couple of Lakers enthusiasts in my life, and you know how the Lakers get on the internet. Laker fans get on the internet, and they brought to my attention this idea that players are never resting against the Lakers. If there's a back-to-back, the game that the team choose to play them is the Lakers. Or like, either if the Lakers are on the front or the back, however it ends up going, guys always make their comeback against the Lakers, or guys use their rest day against the team that's before or after the Lakers. So he pointed me in the direction of Colin Sexton, who missed 15 games, came back for one against the Lakers, then missed the next 3. Is this a real thing? Are teams making sure everybody plays against the Lakers, or is this just a fluke of the schedule? I know you're in tune with online Laker chatter. Have you heard this? What's your take on this one?
I think it's a real thing.
Oh, wow.
Because it's happened. Like, it's not just like that's one example, but there are examples of certain like I want to say this happened maybe with Bradley Beal. It might happen coming up with Joel Embiid, where like all of a sudden these guys get healthy, or it's like their timetable is they're going to be back for the Laker game, and then they like play in that game, then they rest a couple games. Like this has been a thing for multiple years now. And I think internally the Lakers view it as like, I don't know if it's some form of Lakers exceptionalism or whatnot, but they're like, no matter what, there's always a target on our back. Everyone gets up for our matchup. It's like
it's true.
No matter how good or bad we are, we're basically like the defending, like, there's the defending champs, whoever that team is. And then like, we're right there in terms of the biggest matchup on the schedule, and that every team wants to show out against the Lakers because they know you show out against the Lakers, you're going to get a little bit more attention. The YouTube clips, Instagram clips, TikTok, whatever. So I think there's an element of that. Now, I would also argue like they're the kings of like random guys just going off against them, and like that speaks to a larger point of like their defense and how bad it's been for like multiple years. So I think some of it is like self-inflicted, but certainly I'm sure there's Reddit threads on this. Like if you go back, that there's all these guys who they will come back second night of a back-to-back, or the one game on the back-to-back they play, to your point, like is against the Lakers. And I don't know if it's a LeBron thing. I don't know if it's a Lakers thing. I don't know if it's a combination, but this is a real thing that has been going on for multiple years. And it is pretty comedic. And it's kind of like a running joke now on X of like, anytime a star is like questionable, they typically end up playing against the Lakers, and then the fan base gets upset.
All right, man. Yovi, man, thank you for that. Tell the people they can find you and your incredible work, man. You become a YouTuber as of late. Well, it's not really that soon, but like, yeah, you a YouTuber now. But tell the people where they can find your excellent work, bro.
Appreciate it. At Jovan Buha, JOVANBUHA on all social platforms. You can read me at The Athletic, and then find me here on YouTube if you search Jovan Buha or Buha's Block. Also, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all podcast platforms with my podcast. So check me out there.
My boy, man, thank you for coming on. We'll see you next time.
Yes, sir.
All right, folks, that was our show for today. Make sure you subscribe to the Ringer NBA's YouTube page. Also, make sure you hit that notification bell so that you are alerted every time we drop a brand new In My Feelings. And make sure you hit the like button. We will see you guys next week. Peace out, y'all.